What if the oceans disappeared?
What would happen if the oceans began to disappear from the surface of the Earth? We will explore how this process unfolds and what long-term consequences it could have. But it doesn't vanish all at once. It begins to fall under the force of gravity. Near the surface, it drops very fast. Deeper down, though, the water is much heavier and has more inertia, so it takes longer to fall. For the first few seconds, there's still a lot of water in the deeper layers. That's why in some places the seafloor is exposed almost immediately, while in others the water lingers a bit longer. As the water disappears, it doesn't just fall straight down. Because water at different depths sinks at different speeds, it creates massive turbulence throughout the entire water column. Water from the deep ocean violently mixes with water from the upper layers, forming enormous vortices and powerful chaotic currents. At the same time, along the coastlines, we would see sudden and extreme drawdown. Massive volumes of water would rush away from the shore toward the open ocean. Essentially giant, sudden waves of recession, but moving in the opposite direction of a normal tidal outflow. With the sudden disappearance of the oceans, atmospheric pressure over these vast areas would drop dramatically. The massive weight of the water that had been pressing down on the planet is now gone. As a result, air from surrounding regions would rush in at high speed to fill the space. Extremely powerful winds would form, being pulled toward the areas where the water once stood. These winds would be violent and chaotic, sweeping across the now exposed ocean floor. Without oceans, extreme temperature swings would become the norm on land. Oceans have a huge heat capacity. They absorb and release heat very slowly, which used to stabilize both daily and seasonal temperatures. Without them, land surfaces would heat up rapidly during the day and in summer, often reaching 15 to 25 degrees higher than today. At night and in winter, temperatures would drop much more sharply, falling 15 to 25 degrees lower than we are used to. As a result, the difference between day and night could reach 40 to 60 degrees in many inland regions, and seasonal extremes would become far more severe. These effects would be strongest deep inside the continents, while areas closer to the former coastlines would experience somewhat milder temperature swings. Seasonal changes would become much more extreme as well. Without oceans to moderate temperatures, summers would be significantly hotter and winters much colder, with far more abrupt transitions between them. Cut off from their source of moisture, the Earth would begin a long transformation. Without rain, vegetation would start to disappear. The soil would dry out, and what was once fertile ground would slowly give way to dust and sand. A quiet but relentless desertification would spread across vast areas. The removal of the oceans would unload the Earth's crust by an enormous amount, billions of tons of pressure. This could result in a noticeable increase in earthquake frequency and volcanic activity, particularly in tectonically active regions. The atmosphere would also shift. Without oceans absorbing 25 to 30% of our carbon emissions, CO2 levels would climb much faster. At the same time, the planet would produce less oxygen, since roughly half of it comes from life in the oceans. Over time, this would lead to measurable changes in the composition of the atmosphere.
Earth's gravity would change only slightly, by a fraction of a microgel. For a human, this difference would be completely unnoticeable. Earth's rotation would also speed up slightly, making the day shorter by a fraction of a millisecond. Scientifically speaking, the gravitational effects would be very small, much smaller than the everyday changes caused by the moon and the sun.
The disappearance of the oceans would reveal an entirely hidden world. We would see massive underwater mountain ranges, hydrothermal vents, ancient shorelines, and vast deposits of manganese nodules. We would also discover impact craters from ancient collisions, as well as countless shipwrecks and airplane wreckage resting undisturbed on the seafloor for centuries. And deeper still, we would reach zones of total darkness, where sunlight never penetrates and much of the ocean remains unexplored.
The return of the water would not be a gentle or gradual process. After of absence, the ocean basins would be suddenly refilled with enormous force. Massive volumes of water would rush back in from all directions at high speed, violently colliding with each other. This sudden influx would create powerful opposing currents, enormous chaotic waves, and large-scale turbulence across the ocean surface. Strong vortices and swirling patterns would form as different bodies of water mixed together under extreme pressure. In many areas, the returning water would generate waves far larger and more violent than typical tsunamis, as the ocean attempted to restore its previous state in a very short time. In reality, the oceans cannot simply disappear. This was only a simulation created to help us better understand how our planet works, and how much we still don't know about it. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more scenarios like this, let us know in the comments what you'd like us to explore next. And thank you for watching. If you haven't already, Subscribe to Nexus Simulanti What If for more simulations.